There are moments in animation when a character doesn't just feel powerful, they feel like a warning. A warning that no matter how strong the hero is, it will never be enough. And Conquest is exactly that kind of nightmare. He doesn't arrive to fight. He arrives to end things, slowly, completely, without hesitation. In the world of Invincible, even the strongest heroes understand one truth when they see him. This is not a battle they are meant to win. Conquest is not loud. He is not emotional. He doesn't rush in like a reckless villain. Instead, he moves with calm confidence, like he already knows how everything will end. And that is what makes him terrifying, because before he even throws a punch, he has already decided your fate. Not just whether you lose, but how badly you break before you do. When he first appears, there is no grand speech about power or justice. There is only presence, a heavy silence that follows him like a shadow, the kind of silence that makes even experienced fighters hesitate for a second too long. And in a world where seconds decide survival, that hesitation is enough. People think danger always looks obvious, but Conquest proves the opposite. The most dangerous force is the one that looks calm while destroying everything in front of it. And when he finally moves, it's not fast in a way that feels exciting. It's fast in a way that feels unfair. Like reality itself is not keeping up with him. This is not a story about a villain trying to take over Earth. This is a story about Earth realizing it might never have stood a chance in the first place, and every moment that follows just confirms that fear. Conquest is not introduced like a mystery that slowly unfolds. He arrives with a certainty that feels already decided, as if the story has no choice but to follow him. In the world of Invincible, that kind of presence is rare because most enemies still react to situations. Conquest does not react. He measures. And that difference changes everything the moment he steps into conflict with Mark Grayson. What makes him so disturbing is not just his strength, but the way he understands pain as information. When he first comes face to face with Invincible, there is no confusion in his eyes, no curiosity about who Mark is. Instead, there is evaluation. Like he is looking at a problem he has already solved mentally, and now he is simply confirming the result in real time. Every movement from Conquest feels controlled, almost slow in his mind, even when it is devastatingly fast to everyone else. Mark, on the other hand, enters the confrontation with instinct and emotion. He fights to protect, to hold the line, to believe that effort can still change outcomes. But Conquest does not fight with belief. He fights with certainty. And that is where the psychological gap begins to open. Every clash between them is not just physical impact, but a silent message. Effort means nothing when your opponent has already surpassed the concept of struggle. As the fight begins to escalate, Conquest does something far more dangerous than attacking. He starts adjusting. Each exchange teaches him something about Mark's limits, not in a rushed way, but in a calm, almost patient rhythm. He takes hits not because he is weak, but because he is learning how far he can push Mark before something inside him begins to break. That alone changes the tone of the battle from survival to experimentation. Mark starts noticing it too. At first, he believes he is holding his ground. Then he realizes he is being guided into failure. Every time he adapts, Conquest is already ahead of that adaptation. It feels less like a fight and more like being led into deeper water by someone who has already measured the depth. The scariest part is not the pain itself, but the realization that Conquest is never surprised. Not even once. There is a moment where Mark tries to push forward with everything he has, believing that raw determination might still matter. But Conquest's reaction removes that belief instantly. A single shift in movement, a slight correction in timing, and suddenly Mark is no longer exchanging blows. He is surviving them. That shift is subtle, but devastating, because it reveals the truth that Conquest was never matching him. He was pacing him. What makes this phase of the confrontation so intense is the emotional erosion happening underneath the physical damage. Mark is not just being hit harder, he is being made aware that his best is being casually handled. And Conquest does not need to announce it. His silence is enough. His lack of urgency is enough. Every second he remains calm is another crack forming in Mark's confidence. And still, Conquest does not rush. He does not end it quickly. That is not his style. He allows resistance to exist just long enough for it to reveal itself completely. It is almost like he believes true defeat is not when someone falls, but when they understand why they fell. And in that understanding, something begins to shift inside Mark. Not surrender, but doubt. The kind of doubt that slows movement, tightens breath, and makes every decision feel heavier. By the end of this phase, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Conquest is not just stronger. He is operating on a level where strength itself feels redefined. And Mark is no longer in a fight he can measure with effort. He is in a situation where every attempt to adapt is already accounted for before it even begins. The confrontation reaches a point where words and warnings no longer exist, only impact. Conquest fully steps into close combat with Invincible, and the difference is immediately clear. This is not a clash of equals pushing each other to the limit. This is one side applying pressure, while the other struggles just to stay upright. In the world of Invincible, battles often carry emotion, desperation, and shifting momentum. But here, momentum barely exists for Mark Grayson. It is being controlled entirely by Conquest. Every movement from Conquest is efficient. There is no wasted motion, no dramatic flair, no emotional outburst. He strikes like someone who has repeated this exact scenario countless times before. Each hit is placed with purpose, not anger. And that makes it worse, because it removes unpredictability. Mark is not fighting someone who is reacting to him. He is fighting someone who has already decided where his body will be in the next moment. As the exchange continues, Mark tries to create distance, tries to reset the rhythm of the fight, but Conquest refuses to allow it. Whenever Mark attempts to regroup, he is intercepted instantly. It feels less like being chased and more like being contained. Every direction he moves is already met with resistance. The battlefield stops feeling open and starts feeling restricted, like invisible walls are closing in around him. The physical damage starts to stack, but what becomes more important is the pacing. Conquest does not rush to finish the fight. Instead, he maintains control over its speed. When Mark tries to accelerate the fight, Conquest slows it down. When Mark tries to recover, Conquest speeds it up again. It is not just combat anymore, it is control of time inside the fight. And Mark is constantly a step behind that control. There are moments where Mark manages to land something solid, something that would normally shift the balance. But even those moments are absorbed without visible reaction from Conquest. No shock, no frustration, no change in expression. It is as if those hits are already calculated risks in Conquest's plan, accepted long before they happen. That realization quietly strips away confidence, because success stops feeling meaningful when it produces no response. As the pressure builds, Mark's body begins to show the strain of constant impact. Movements that were once sharp become slightly delayed, guarding becomes heavier, breathing becomes less controlled. And Conquest notices all of it without needing to comment. He reads deterioration the way others read openings. Every slowdown becomes an opportunity. Every hesitation becomes a signal. What makes this phase especially brutal is how one-sided adaptation becomes. Mark is forced to adjust constantly just to survive the next exchange, while Conquest adjusts once and stays ahead permanently. There is no back-and-forth learning curve. It is a one-directional collapse of balance. Mark is trying to evolve inside the fight. Conquest is simply confirming that evolution will never be enough. At one point, Mark attempts a full-force push, trying to reclaim initiative through raw power and will. The effort is massive, but it is also predictable. Conquest meets it without resistance in the emotional sense. He does not counter with rage or desperation. He counters with timing. A slight shift in position, a precise strike at the exact moment of commitment. And the entire push is neutralized as if it was never a threat at all. That moment changes the tone of the fight again. Because now it is no longer about winning exchanges. It is about whether Mark can even initiate them without immediate correction. Conquest has not just matched him physically, he has started to erase the idea of initiative entirely. Every attempt to take control is answered before it fully exists. By the end of this phase, the fight is no longer chaotic. It is structured domination. Conquest is not overwhelmed, not surprised, not challenged in the way Mark is used to. Instead, he is guiding every second of the confrontation, allowing resistance only to the extent that it reinforces the final outcome. And Mark is beginning to realize that surviving this is not about fighting harder, it is about enduring a level of control that was never meant to be broken.